Bomber Command are out in great force. They continue to seek out and blast the highly camouflaged launching bases in France.
All right, this is another one of the drawings that we have. This is full-size drawing. This is one of the end fittings on the center spar to pick up the intermediate wing. Now these are all drawings, original drawings from the Halifax company, or Handley Page, sorry. Now the reason we are called Halifax 57 Rescue is if you take a look down here at the serial number of this drawing, every drawing related to the Halifax Bomber, whether it was a Mark 1 to a Mark 7, all started with the 57 digit. Hence our name and every drawing to this. So as you can see, we can make whatever virtually we need. Steel fittings, as I showed you on the box sections that are rusted, that we can restore, or if they are not restorable, we have the actual full-size drawings to make what we need. Alright, here's another drawing. I'm just throwing it out there. This is actually because the center section is a straight section, we have no taper on the wing. This is actually the full, not a full-size drawing, but it actually gives us every piece of information we need for a rib. This particular one is the ribs in between that section of the fuselage that I showed you where the crew would sit. This is the outside rib. And these, for instance, these oval shapes here, they were actually nitrogen bottles that were built into this airplane. It was quite a complex airplane. And what that was for was just in case the intermediate and the outboard wings, they had fuel bladders. They weren't a wet wing. They had an actual bladder inside. And it actually had a type of liquid rubber or rubber in it that if a hole was shot into the fuel tank, that the rubber would melt or vulcanize itself and shut the hole, providing that it wasn't too big. Now the other thing that they built into this aircraft, for instance, again I show you these oval shapes where the nitrogen bottles would be bolted onto. That was another safety feature. Should that not seal, these would actually pump out the tank so that there's no fuel and no further fear of a fire. That's one of the things. And like again, as you can see, it shows exactly the spars. It shows the gussets, all the water lines where the stiffeners would be. You know, you have your vertical stations for your stiffening. This section down here, for instance, with the staggered 3-pitch, that was the carry-through for the fuselage. It's quite thick. It's probably 3/8 of an inch thick, and on each end there is a casting, a mount for the rear fuselage coming back here. The engineer's position up here where they would be aligned and put together, and then there's also a section going up here where the fuselage would be bolted into these wing ribs. Again, it shows the spar caps, their location. So like virtually we can build an airplane from scratch, but that's not our intention. We are attempting to build and restore hopefully 50 to 60% of a real airplane. Again, this is another one of the drawings we have. We have virtually every wing drawing so that we can manufacture any part on the center section. Again, here is the actual full size. This represents a side view of the or cross section of the upper and lower spar cap. It shows exactly where it bolts. This is actually a rib section that goes to the rear spar. These are the gussets that tie it in. It gives us exactly full size, the size of the bolts. These particular ones are 5/16 of an inch. And then we have the top view again. Now, This is an important part too, because we only have the rear spar on the wing boxes. So again, we have to manufacture wing spars, upper and lower. This is what the rear spar upper looks like. That is a full size. Now we can have an extrusion die made for that, so we can extrude the rear spar caps. And it doesn't show the lower one, but essentially it is 3 degrees less than the top because of the shape of the wing. It's more curved on the top than it is on the bottom. To further to the comment that was sent in the last segment, we have not only included the visual part to show what we have and what we're doing, but now I'm going to show you some actual drawings. This is the final drawing that was sent down to Sapa Extrusions, which made our spar caps. This was through Sprung Corporation, and this is what we actually had our extrusion die made from, and then that was sent down to Sapa and they extruded our spar caps for us. These are the aluminum spars that I was saying we had manufactured for us graciously through Sprung Shelter Corporation. We don't know of anyone else in the world that has really ever attempted to do such a thing. As you can see, there are 10 of them, brand new. They're 6061 T6 aluminum. They're 15 feet long. They will have to be cut to put the end fittings on for the intermediate wing, but we have that, as I said. Here's a display out at the Bomber Command Museum. This is Carl Kasgard. He put it together. These are 2 of the engines that were in the scrapyard in Malta. As I told you when I showed you the landing gear at the Air Force Museum, here is the other set. They are out in Nanton, Alberta as well. And we've set up a display with the spar caps, just representing that we have them and to see how big they actually are. Here's another shot, same thing again. It's a different shot of the 10 spar caps that we had manufactured. They're absolutely beautiful. They're a thing of beauty. That's when they were brought and delivered actually to us and being unloaded. And it again shows the extent of how large they are. And like I said, we have 10, 2 if there's a mistake made, and hopefully I don't make a mistake, and the other 4 are for, I will show you further on, that if another museum would like to acquire a center section, which is the basis of a Halifax, because without that you don't have a Halifax, that we can build that for them. It is the top component and bottom component of the center spar, that webbing that you have seen on the last 3 episodes that we've been working on. It fits in between there. Now that takes all the weight and all the punishment of the aircraft, because as I showed you in the box sections where the landing gear are, which is approximately here, they would come straight out like this and then back down. They take the full load here of the landing gear. They take the full load of an engine out here. Again, the intermediate wing, which is approximately, I believe, 9 to 10 feet long, is full of fuel. Same thing on the other end. And then all the rest of the aircraft, the let's say this is the forward part, so your cockpit, actually it's 2 sections. There's the flight engineers section and then the cockpit up here. This was a modular airplane. Why they built it like that was so that they didn't have to build the whole airplane in a factory that could be easily bombed. These parts were built all over London and in the countryside, and they were produced so that they could actually be taken to an assembly facility in the back of horse-drawn carriages so that they could all be bolted together to make the aircraft so that it would survive an attack. Again, as I said, here are one of the outer, this is the port or left side outer wing panel from Halifax, and that is in England right now, and it has been donated to us. And we also have the starboard. These have to be restored, but as you can see, they're in absolutely great condition. They will take very little to restore, other than stripping them, taking them apart, again re-riveting everything, because I set the standard at NA337 that we wouldn't just clean up parts. We take them apart, take out any corrosion in between the parts, clean out the holes, put in new rivets, and so forth and so on, so that once the restoration is complete, it will last for ever and ever, as long as we will live anyways, and a lot longer. This, for instance, this is the center line of the aircraft. What this is showing is the upper and lower spar caps that we have manufactured. These are the splice plates. This is actually where they join together. This is the upper splice plate. This one goes in underneath and bolts into this. This is the bottom. It goes inside the channel. And then this is the bottom of the spar cap itself. And all these bolts line up together to bolt this all together. Now what's interesting on this also, it shows, because this was the crew rest area, as they called it, that you will see these pieces here. Because the spar would stand inside the aircraft, and they would have to crawl over the spars to get forward and aft of the airplane through that section. These parts are actually quite heavy aluminum, so that these guys wouldn't smash their ankles and their knees and everything on the corners of these spar caps, because they were totally exposed inside the aircraft. It was basically like a big tub where these guys would sit in. And as you can see by the thickness of these plates, putting everything together, they're substantial. And to World War II standards, as far as I've read up and everything, they either used a 6061 or a 2024. The alloys are a little bit different to date, but you know, that's basically what they used. Okay, and I hope you enjoyed this segment. Jim, myself, 57 Rescue Canada, and Demon say we'll see you next time.
Bomber Command are out in great force. They continue to seek out and blast the highly camouflaged launching bases in France.